Here's a funny game to talk about. Hang On GP is one of those very early 3D motorbike racing games that I really wanted to get into back in 1996, but for the life of me I could never get used to the controls. So let's start by talking about those controls, shall we? Essentially the game allows you to accelerate, brake, shift your gears up and down, and then finally shift your weight on the bike from left to right. It sounds extremely basic, and well, for the most part it is, but for some reason I just couldn't get used to the controls, even after spending weeks with the game. A good friend of mine used to come over to my place weekend after weekend to play this game, and I swear he was a wizard. He just destroyed me time and time again. We would take turns playing through the different tracks. He could finish the entire game in one sitting, whereas I could barely finish a single track. Returning to the game all these years later for this review, one thing is quite apparent. This just isn't the game for me. That being said, I can appreciate what the game does right and where it slips up a little bit. First off, you should know that Hang On GP isn't as good as Mank's TT Superbike, something like that. That was a superior game. Some may argue with that, but honestly, Hang On GP just doesn't feel as polished or refined, my personal bias aside. Part of why that is because of the lack of animations put into the game. Anytime you flick left or right on the D-pad, your racer will move in that direction, to be sure. However, it appears as though they put all their weight on the bike in that direction. Now, I say it appears because that's not actually what's happening. This is why it takes so long to get used to how the game plays. In reality, a short turn ends up looking like a hard turn, but in order to actually make a hard turn, you have to really put your weight behind the turn using the left or right bumper buttons. Again, it takes a long time to get used to, but I'm certain some of you guys out there are most likely masters of this game. I'm just not one of them. Touching other racers or the sides of the track are another area that takes a very long time to get used to, as if you so much as breathe on another racer or the sides of the track, you're most likely going to crash, and crash hard. It's not always the case if you can regulate your speed, but I found it extremely challenging to finish a course without crashing at least once or twice, and coupled with the unusual control design, this makes Hang On GP extremely challenging. There are 6 courses in the Grand Prix mode, with 3 needing to be unlocked as you progress. There's also an endurance mode that can be unlocked, which makes you make pit stops and continues until the clock runs out. Outside the endurance mode, there's also a time trial, and that's about all she wrote for Hang On GP. It features detailed graphics with a good amount of pop-in, although not as ridiculous as some of the other games on the Saturn, and the audio is catchy without being overly memorable. It's a decent game with fun spots if you can get a hang of the controls and just the overall sensitive nature of the game. The good news is, if you're interested in what you're seeing here, you can pick up a copy for well under $10.